Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, that Supreme Brahman is infinite, and this conditioned Brahman is infinite. The infinite conditioned Brahman proceeds from the infinite Supreme Brahman. When through knowledge, realizing the infinitude of the infinite, it remains as the infinite unconditioned Brahman alone. Om, peace, peace, peace. So, in the Isha Upanishad, we've been studying, we have studied up to the fifth mantra. We saw last time two mantras, wonderful mantras describing the real nature of the self, that the self is pure consciousness. And what were the mantras? Anejadekam manaso javiyo nainad deva apnuvan purvamarshad taddhavatu anyanatyeti tishtat tasmin napo matarishvadadhati. So there's a race between the sense organs and the mind and consciousness always wins. Because consciousness is everywhere. Even before the mind, sense organs can reach something or the mind cannot think of something, consciousness is already there. That was the mantra. And then the fifth mantra was using wonderful language of paradox. Tadejati tannejati. It moves and it does not move. Taddure taddvantike. It is very far and it is very near. Tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahyatah. That is in and through everything here, in all beings. And it is at the same time entirely beyond all beings. So talking about Nirguna Brahman, the attributeless Brahman, Brahman which is with attributes, it seems to be moving with body and mind and activities in the world. With names and forms, it seems to be moving, but in itself, it is beyond all change. In ignorance, it seems to be very far. And when we know, then it's nearest, the nearest of the near, because it is our very own self. And it is in and through everything. It is present in all beings as their very existence. And yet it's beyond everything. It's beyond all names and forms. It is transcendent. So this is what we studied. Now, the next two verses, 6 and 7, are wonderful verses, wonderful mantras, which express the heart of Advaita Vedanta. So let me read 6th verse. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmannevānupashyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. He who sees all beings in the self itself and the self in all beings feels no hatred by virtue of that realization. So, yastu sarvani bhutani atmannevānupashyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Wonderful verse. And these verses are important because Shankaracharya, for example, quotes them often. They are expressive of the central message of Advaita Vedanta. The central message of Advaita Vedanta, Swami Vivekananda said, it's the divinity within us and the oneness of all existence. Especially here, the oneness of that divine existence within us, that is what is talked about. To see all beings in yourself and see yourself in all beings. And therefore, the result is the one does not hate others. This is the central insight. What is being done here? The question will arise that what is the purpose, the benefit of all of this result? And it is in this 6th and 7th and also 8th mantras, the result will be stated. The method, the path, and the result will be stated. The 6th and 7th mantra especially, it is basically Tattvamasi, you are that, but it is stated in another way. Instead of saying you are Brahman, what is stated here is enlightenment means seeing all beings in yourself and yourself in all beings. Seeing all beings in the self and the self in all beings. But keep in mind, what is being taught here is nothing other than the Mahavakya, the great teaching that you are that. Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. That is what is being said here in a different way. And this way of saying it is actually, it's popular in not only in the Upanishad, you will find later in the Bhagavad Gita, the same teaching is echoed. Sarvabhuta bhustastham atmanam sarvabhuteshu cha sarvabhuteshu cha atmanam sarvabhutastham atmanam sarvabhutani cha atmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. It's the sixth chapter, the end of the sixth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. We have already seen this in the Bhagavad Gita class. Enlightenment. Who is the enlightened one? Seeing the self in all beings, sarva bhutastham atmanam, sarva bhutani chatmani, and seeing all beings in the self. See, it is the same language, and it's actually a direct quote from the Ishopanishad. Then what happens? Ikshate, sees. Who sees? Yoga yuktatma, the one who is centered in yoga. The one who is centered in yoga, whose vision is centered in yoga, sees all beings in the self and the self in all beings. Sarvatra samadarshana, and as a result of this insight has the same sightedness, in the sense sees the same divinity everywhere. We see difference, that is samsara, and the enlightened one sees sameness. Sameness in what sense? The same divinity everywhere. One divinity shining in all beings. So this is the teaching. You will find this in the sixth mantra, and you will find the same thing repeated in the seventh mantra. You find it in other texts, including Bhagavad Gita. Shankaracharya is very fond of quoting this. Now, yastu sarvani bhutani. The word tu there, just the little word tu in Sanskrit, it means but. But. So, but what? Here, when you say but, you are answering something. You are replying to a different position. Our default position, samsara, is of the form that we are limited beings. Just this body and mind, this person who was born that day will die very soon. And we are the doers of deeds. We are agents of action. In Sanskrit, karta. We do good things and we do bad things. And doing good and bad, we get the results of those good and bad actions. Good leads to pleasant life, pleasant experiences, and bad leads to unpleasant experiences. And we had these pleasant and unpleasant experiences. In Sanskrit, that is called bhokta, the experiencer, the enjoyer, the sufferer. And as a result of that, we have sukha dukkha. We have pleasure and pain in life. This is our understanding of life. And this goes on through life and does not end with death. It did not begin with birth. It will not end with death. So we are caught in the cycle of birth and death. So this is our idea of ourselves. Limited being, parichinna, limited. Karta, bhokta, sukhi dukhi, so, and janma mrityu. So doer, sufferer, with pleasure and pain, going through series of experiences and multiple lifetimes. This is what is called our default setting, the way we think of ourselves. Now the word in this Upanishad, tu, just that tu, is the reply to this. If one were enlightened, if one is not enlightened, what happens? We have seen in the third verse that they go to these demonic worlds, that they go from death to death. What was there in the third verse? That these people are equivalent to suicide. Asurya namate loka andhena tamasavritaha. They go to these demonic worlds, which are in blinding darkness. Tagamste pratyabhigachanti yeke cha atmahano janaha. They, after death, they go on to these demonic existences. Those who are killers of the self. Atmahano, killers of the self. Killers of the self in what sense? Not physical suicide, in the sense of ignorance. Since we do not know our real nature, we are whirled around from birth to death, from death to birth again. That is the position, and a reply to that is being given. The solution has been given in this Upanishad. What is the solution? To see all beings in the self and the self in all beings. So that is the meaning of the word tu. We think we are parichinna, limited body and mind. Upanishad says tu, but we are actually unlimited existence consciousness bliss. We are limitless, all pervasive, we are eternal, and we are non-dual existence consciousness bliss. We think we are the doers of actions and the sufferers of the results, but we are neither doer nor sufferer, not karta, not bhokta. We are pure consciousness. We are not caught in the cycle of birth and death. We are free from the cycle of birth and death, mukta. We are not baddha, born in bondage. We are mukta, we are free. So this is all of this is the meaning of tu, just that little tu. In the unenlightened state, that is our condition. If you are enlightened, then this will be the result. Tu. Then this Upanishad, what it's saying in this mantra is that the importance of knowledge, jnana, dharma, ethical life is important for spirituality. It is foundational, but it is not enough. Is it enough? People ask, is it enough to be a good person? No, it is necessary to be a good person. But what one talks about necessary condition, sufficient condition, it's not sufficient. What is needed is this enlightenment, this God realization. But it's necessary to be good. So dharma is necessary. To be moral is necessary. Is it enough to meditate? Yoga, upasana, samadhi, that is important. Again, necessary condition, but not sufficient. What is sufficient condition is this jnana, both necessary and sufficient, this knowledge. So can we have knowledge without being a good person, without being meditative, without doing spiritual practices? No, not again, that knowledge itself will not arise. But if the knowledge arises once, then nothing else is necessary. So let me repeat that. What this Upanishad is trying to tell us is, knowledge is central to enlightenment. Enlightenment basically means knowledge, jnana. It does not mean dharma or bhakti or dhyāna, meditation, karma, doing some action or rituals. All those are good and helpful. The moral life is helpful. Ritualistic performances are helpful. Devotion to God is most helpful, and meditation is helpful. But what is necessary and sufficient is knowledge. Once that knowledge rises, it does not require support from anything else. So jnanat, the saying is, jnanadeva kaivalyam. From knowledge alone comes, kaivalya literally means aloneness. That is liberation. So from knowledge alone comes liberation. Jnanat, rite jnanat na muktihi. There is no freedom without knowledge. So these are all statements which point the same thing out, which this mantra is trying to tell us. We will see later how it is telling us that. Next, the first word here, one single letter, yah, yastu sarvani bhutani. Yah means who, the one. Which one? We must keep that in mind. It is already taking for granted that you are a qualified one. Yastu sarvani bhutani. Yah means that one. Which one? The one who has the fourfold qualifications. Let us enumerate the fourfold qualifications. Viveka, discernment, eternal and non-eternal. There is an eternal reality and the world is transient. That discernment, that is viveka. Then vairagya, dispassion for the non-eternal and a pull towards, a desire for the eternal, for God or for enlightenment. Then the sixfold treasure, the sixfold disciplines. What are the sixfold disciplines? Shamaha, a quietude of mind. Damaha, a control of the body, the sense organs. Then titiksha, a spiritual toughness, internal toughness, which is that in spite of the troubles which the world throws at me, in spite of the troubles which my own body may throw at me, or my mind also, whatever the ups and downs of the mind, whatever the health or sickness of the body or tiredness of the body, whatever the behavior of other people and problems in the world. But I will persist on my spiritual quest. That much toughness. That is titiksha, putting up with all sorts of problems without complaint. Then the uparati, a withdrawal from uh, too much engagement with the world, too much busyness with the world. Uparati. When you withdraw, then time and energy is freed up. So the next discipline is samadhana, focus. With the extra time and energy which we have, we focus on spiritual life. Swami Turiyanandaji, when he would spend time in the Himalayas, in Rishikesh, how did he spend his days? He said, job, dhan, part, dhan, job. My days were a cycle of study and japa, repetition of the mantra, and meditation. So study, mantra repetition, meditation. Meditation, mantra repetition, study. Sometimes one would be more, one would be less, but in a continuous cycle it would move. This is called samadhana, focus. Stay with it. Then Shraddha. Shraddha means a faith, an abiding faith in the teacher and the teaching, the texts. What the teacher is telling me, what I'm reading in these mantras in the Upanishads, it is real. Even if I don't understand it right now, one day I will. Even if I don't realize it right now, one day I will. That kind of faith. So we have sixfold disciplines. Shamaha, quietude of mind. Damaha, control of the senses. Titiksha, a spiritual fortitude. Then the uparati, withdrawal from too much busyness, engagement with the world. Samadhana, focus. And the last one, Shraddha, which is faith. Sixfold disciplines, they're called sixfold treasure. Why treasure? On a journey, you need money. So this treasure for our spiritual journey are these six. If we don't have them in sufficient quantity, we will struggle. If we have them in sufficient quantity, our spiritual journey will be smooth. It will be smooth sailing. Then the last of the fourfold qualifications is mumukshutvam, the most important, an intense desire for freedom. Sri Ramakrishna was asked, what's the one condition of God realization? He would say, vyakulata, a restlessness for God, wanting, really, really wanting God, being miserable not for the world, but for God vision. So this vyakulata is restlessness for God realization. In Vedanta, it is called mumukshutvam, an intense aspiration for freedom from samsara. Then, next point I want to mention is, all right. Now, in this Upanishad, the central teaching was given at the very beginning. Īśavasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. This entire universe of the moving and the non-moving has to be covered up or is to be covered by God. Isha, by the Lord. Cover the universe with Lord. And we know what is meant by cover. I explained earlier, Shankaracharya also has said, cover means to uncover. God is already there. Uncover means to discover. We have to discover. But how can we discover the divine in the midst of this world? Nothing seems divine here. We just see people and animals and plants and non-living things like rocks and buildings. And when we look at ourselves, we see the body, and we look more subtle inwards, we see the mind. Where is God? You say discover God, but how? What is the procedure? So the procedure has been mentioned in this mantra. The process of covering everything by God, by uncovering God existing in everything, by discovering God. How? How will you discover God? And the process is this. Sarva bhuteshu chatmanam, sarva bhutani chatmani. To see in all beings the self and the self in all beings. What is this sarva bhutani, all beings? That means all living and non-living beings. If we put it in Vedantic terms, it means at the cosmic level, that consciousness in association with Maya, that consciousness in association with the cosmic mind, Hiranyagarbha, That consciousness in association with the entire universe, Virat, and particularly that consciousness limited by the causal body, which is our state in deep sleep. That consciousness limited by the causal body and the subtle body, which is what we experience in dreams. That consciousness limited by the causal body, subtle body, and gross body, which is our waking state. All such beings, not only the beings, the bodies also, all of them are called bhutani, all beings. In Sanskrit, upadhi and aupadhika. Upadhi, the bodies and minds, and aupadhika, that which is limited by the body and mind. In the deep sleep state, it is called pragya. In the dream state, it is called taijasa. And the waking state, it is called vishwa. Well, some people might look confused. What is he going on and on about? Just us, right now, what we are right now. Right now, it is consciousness limited by a causal body, subtle body, and this physical body. Here is the physical body. And within we find the subtle body. And what we experience in deep sleep is called the causal body. And we ourselves limited in this body mind. We become a bhuta. That means in the sense of being a limited creature. So sarvani bhutani, in all beings. To put it even more simply, anything that you experience, anything that is experienced by consciousness, in consciousness, that which is experienced as an object is bhuta. जो भासता है वो भूत है. Bhasta means which appears. So that which appears is a bhuta, is a being, is an entity. Sarvani bhutani. In all beings, what do we have to do? You have to discover that one reality in all beings. See, the problem here is if you say to see the self in all beings and all beings in the self, well, I don't see myself in all beings. The problem is I see myself only in this being, and everybody else is an other to me. And I don't see all beings in myself. What do I see in myself? One body and one mind. That's it. Not others. So this seeing all beings in oneself and oneself in all beings, what is meant by self here? See, there are two terms here, all beings and self, Atma and Sarvani Bhutani. So Sarvani Bhutani I have just defined. Anything that we experience is the Sarvani Bhutani, all beings. In the physical world, in the subtle world, in the causal world, or in more technical terms, upadhi and aupadhika, the limiting factors and that which is limited by those limiting factors. These are philosophical ways of describing. So this is what is meant by all beings. Now, on the other hand, there is the term the self. What self is meant here? By self, straightforward, we mean this body. So is the body meant here? Can you see all beings in the body and the body in all beings? Of course you cannot. I can only see myself in this body and nobody else. And I don't see this body in everybody else. I see the body only in myself. So the physical body is not the self meant here. I hope you are with me. We are asking the question, seeing the self in all beings and all beings in the self, but what self is meant here? What do you mean by self? We are trying to inquire. And why are we trying to inquire? Remember, the original quest, cover everything by God. That means uncover God in everything. That means discover God in everything. But now the question is how? And the answer was given, see the self in all beings, see all beings in the self. But now we are asking the question, what self? By self, I mean the body. Can you see this body in all beings? No, they all have different bodies. Clearly, just take a look around. And can you see all beings in this body? Not at all. At the most, I can see that I am in this body, I am embodied here, but not all beings. So the body is not the self which is meant here. You cannot see all beings in this body and this body in all beings. Impossible. Is the mind meant here? Again, impossible. Because I can conceive of myself in this mind, but not all beings. And this mind is only in me. It is not in you and everybody, in all beings. In each being, there is a different mind. So the mind is also not the self which is being talked about. So what is being talked about here is consciousness. To see all beings in the self and the self in all beings, what he means is pure consciousness. So all beings are appearing in pure consciousness. And that pure consciousness is in all beings. This is the meaning of seeing the self in all beings and seeing all beings in the self. So we are talking about what self? Pure consciousness. Notice now, look at the mantras which we have already covered. In mantra number 1, the first one, what was said? Isha, by God, by Saguna Brahman, by Ishvara, by Bhagavan, cover everything by God. So God was mentioned in the first mantra. And in this mantra, what is being mentioned? The self, Atma. Look at the two, notice what has been done. In mantra number 1, cover everything by God. And in this mantra number 6, see the Atma, the self in all beings and all beings in the self. Everything is to be covered by God, or God is in all beings there, in the first mantra. And the sixth mantra, the self is in all beings. Then what connection do we get? The self, Atma, and God, Isha, are one and the same. Let me repeat. Hasn't the same thing been said? In the first mantra, it was said, cover everything by God, which meant that see God or discover God in everything, seeing God in every being. One. So God is in every being, Isha. And in this one, what has been said? See the self, Atma, in every being. So in the Atma, in every being, in all beings of the universe, what is there? According to first mantra, God. According to sixth mantra, self. So that Atma of the sixth mantra and Isha of the first mantra are one and the same. How are they one and the same? There is the secret lies in the fifth mantra, in the fourth and the fifth mantras, which talks about Nirguna Brahman, or pure consciousness. It moves and it does not move. It is far and it is near. It is inside and it is outside. What is being indicated there? Pure consciousness. So, the pure consciousness, the self as pure consciousness, God as pure consciousness is in all beings. The first mantra said God is in all beings. Sixth mantra said the self is in all beings. Sixth, that means God and the self are the same. How are they the same? As pure consciousness. The self as pure consciousness, God as pure consciousness are the same in all beings. This is the inner secret. This is just another way of teaching Tattvam. Tattvam Asi. That you are. What is the word for God? Isha. In Vedanta, Tat. That. In Vedanta Sara we have studied. Tat is Maya Upahita Chaitanyam. Consciousness associated with Maya. Otherwise known as Ishvara, Isha, Saguna Brahma. We have studied that. And what is the Jiva, sentient being? It is Ajnana Upahita Chaitanya, pure consciousness limited by ignorance. But if you remove the limitations, Maya and ignorance, then it is Chaitanya, pure consciousness. This pure consciousness is in all beings. In that sense, God is in all beings. In that sense, you, the pure consciousness, self, is in all beings. It is nothing other than Tattvamasi. What was taught here is Tat is Tvam, Tvam is Tat. What that Tat is Tvam and Tvam is Tat, what does it mean? It's a pretty devastating statement, stunning statement. What it means is, really speaking, according to Advaita Vedanta, there is no God but you, the real you, not the person you. And you are nothing but God. Tattvamasi means that there is no God but you, and you are nothing but God. What does that mean? When you say take the first one, let's take the second one. You are nothing but God. It means you are not the body. You are not the mind. You are not a jiva, this individual being. You are that limitless consciousness, which associated with Maya will be called God. You are pure consciousness. And God is nothing but you. That means other than you, other than that pure consciousness, there is no Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, God, whatever. It is that pure consciousness with the upadhi of Maya, which is called God. So, Tattvamasi means that you are, it means is equal to you are nothing but that, and that is nothing but you. That and you, Isha and Atma. And what are they actually? How are they one and the same? As pure consciousness, as Chit, as Chaitanya, as Satchidananda. So this is the central teaching. To see all beings in the self and the self in all beings. Now, the word used to see all beings in the self, the see, the word see, the Sanskrit word used is very profound. Anupashyati. Pashyati means to see. Anupashyati. That word has to be unlocked. What does anupashyati mean? Anu means later, after, behind. So, underlying all seeing. So, what is behind all seeing? Seeing with the eyes or hearing with the ears. It's not just seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, all five tasting. So, all five sense organs. All five sense organs, the seeing by the sense organs, but it is all underwritten by, illumined by, anupashyati. Behind it is what? The mind. Without the mind, the senses cannot give you any experience. You cannot have the experience of seeing or hearing if the mind is inattentive. Eyes are there, ears are there, but you will not see anything, you will not hear anything. So the mind is anupashyati. Behind all the sense organs, and their foundation, as their illuminer, it is mind. But even the mind by itself cannot do anything. The chitta vrittis, which are the movements of the mind which are going on, they have to be illumined by consciousness. So consciousness is behind the mind. So when you say anupashyati, what you mean actually is consciousness. In English, it's simply translated as sees. It should be more precisely translated as seeing afterwards or seeing from behind. All the senses, what do? They see. That includes hear, smell, taste, touch, and all of that. But who sees behind the seeing? Who is the seer of the seeing? Mind. And who is behind the mind? Who sees behind the mind? Consciousness. So anupashyati itself shows you what is being indicated here. It means it is pointing towards consciousness itself. If we look at it from consciousness downwards, when we wake up, we are first aware of I, the ego, and then mind, thoughts. I was sleeping. I am Sarvapriyananda. So the mind comes in. Then we're aware of the mind. And then with this, I open my eyes. Using the eyes, I'm able to see the world. So first consciousness illumines the ego, then immediately follows with the mind. Information comes from the mind. Who am I? And then senses, body, world. So this anupashyati, you start with the senses, you see that behind the senses must be the mind, and behind the mind must be consciousness. Or start with consciousness, then you see what appears to consciousness is mind, but ego first, then the mind, and then the senses, and then the world. So this is anupashyati. You see from outside to inside, from inside to outside. Anupashyati. Now, here are some important points I want to mention. I just got some notes so that I don't forget. In the world, there's a difference between cause and effect. Cause is the seed, effect is the plant. So cause and effect, there's some change, some difference. Cause is not effect, effect is not cause. There's a difference between the ground and the superimposition. In Sanskrit, adhyasta and the adhikarana. The rope is the ground and the snake is superimposed on that. There is a difference always between drashta and drishya, the seer and the seen. In the world, when we see, seer is different from the seen and the seen is different from the seer. The seer is never the seen and the seen is never the seer. Subject is never object, object is never subject, ultimately speaking. Then there is a difference between the near and the far, and the moving and the unmoving, from the inner and the outer. Those who are alert will see where I'm going with this. In the world, there is a difference between the moving and non-moving. What is non-moving is clearly different from what is non-moving. You cannot say it is moving. What is moving, you cannot say it is non-moving. What is inside, you cannot say it is outside. What is outside, you cannot say it's inside. What is near, it's not far. And what is far is not near. They are different. But now, Vedanta is telling us anupashyati, using this word, indicating an insight, a new realization. that from this perspective of pure consciousness, there is no difference between cause and effect. The same thing appears as the cause and as the effect, but it is beyond both. There is no difference between the moving and the unmoving. It is the same reality, consciousness, which appears as the moving and the unmoving. There is no difference between the inner and the outer. The same thing which appears as the inner consciousness and the outer body mind world, mind body world. Inner and outer, no difference. There is no difference between superimposed and the ground of superimposition. The world and the Brahman upon which the world is imposed, they are all that one consciousness alone. This is the deep meaning of anupashyati. Between the near and the far, it is the same reality. In the world, there is a great difference between near and far, moving and unmoving, the high and the low, the seer and the seen, the cause and the effect. But the Anupashyati tells us there's one underlying reality to which all of these are appearing. Cause is also appearing, effect is also appearing. What is cause and effect? Cause is Saguna Brahman, God. What is effect? World. God is not the world is not God. But here underlying this one Satchidananda is there, one Chaitanya is there, which is appearing both as God and the creation of God, the world. Ishvara and Jagat. Both as near and as far. As near, your own self, Chaitanya, and as far, the entire cosmos. As near, when you know it, it is nearest of all, consciousness. When you don't know it, it seems very far, very abstract. As the moving and the unmoving. What is unmoving? Maya, the source of the universe, or beyond that, Ishvara, the unmoving reality. And the screen of the movie, unmoving. And what is moving? The movie itself. That's why it's called a movie. It moves, it changes. But according to, and from this perspective of Satchidananda, Nirguna Brahman, it alone appears as the unmoving background of the universe and the moving play of this universe. There's no difference. So it is to this one pure consciousness that all these categories appear, cause and effect, seer and the seen, subject and object, near and far, inside and outside, and known and the unknown. All of them appear to this one consciousness. And they are illumined, revealed by this one consciousness. And they disappear also in this one consciousness. This is the meaning of anupashyati. One word, very deep word. Anupashyati, to see, right? The enlightenment is of this form. This anupashyati, what is the real meaning? The real meaning of anupashyati, what is seeing? Seeing in this sense that to see all beings in the self and the self in all beings. The whole universe is appearing in you, and you are in everything and everywhere in this whole universe. This is the real meaning of anupashyati. And just one more point I want to make about anupashyati is this. Seeing, one meaning of seeing is knowledge. Knowledge, jnana. It is not believing, it is not doing something, it's not karma, it's not bhakti, it is not yoga, it is knowledge, jnana. Seeing means knowledge. So the choice of the word anupashyati, to see, it means this knowledge is this advaitic knowledge is what is required. All the other things can be helpful, but they will not give you freedom from samsara. This advaitic knowledge will instantly deliver you from samsara. This is the another hidden implication of using a word like seeing, anupashyati. Why seeing? Why not believing? Why not worshipping? Why not doing? Why not meditating? No, seeing, anupashyati. Again, one must also add here, anupashyati is not knowledge in the sense of understanding something or information or reading a book or even attending a class on Isha Upanishad. Anupashyati is a direct experience. It must be a living experience. That goes back to that word tu, but. Our living experience right now, we think we are limited beings enjoying and suffering, doing good and bad things. with lots of thoughts and feelings and emotions. That's our living experience. Tu means but. The one whose living experience is, I am in all beings and all beings are in me. That is anupashyati. That is real enlightenment. But it must be a living experience. It should not just be information. Let me put it in another way. When we say all beings are you in you and you are in all beings, see how much of a direct experience we are talking about. Follow this. In theistic religion, we say God created the universe. The universe exists in God. And God finally destroys or dissolves the universe. God is the creator, preserver, destroyer of the universe. But it's an article of faith. We believe it or we are supposed to believe it. One may not believe it. Whoever has seen God, who has seen God creating the universe? Who has seen? Nobody. You can't have seen because you didn't exist then. So you have to believe it. It's a theory. It's an article of faith. But look at your own experience. Every day when we wake up from deep sleep, the universe appears to us. To you, the consciousness, the ego, and the mind first appears, the personality. Then you open your eyes and you feel the body, and you're lying on the bed, and the room, and the awareness of the whole world appears to you. When we wake from deep sleep to the waking state, the universe appears in consciousness. And throughout the day, the universe exists in consciousness. And when we fall asleep every day, we experience, it's a matter of direct experience. The universe dissolves into mental impressions called, which we later called dreams. And then all of that stops. The external universe and the mental universe of dreams both dissolve into blankness, and I remain as consciousness, the witness of that blankness. Our daily experience, not an article of faith. The projection of the universe, the existence of this universe, and the dissolution of the universe, daily we directly experience with regard to consciousness. Not with regard to God, with regard to consciousness. This is the deeper meaning of creation, preservation, and destruction of the universe. It is directly experienced. All things and beings exist, appear from you. You means the consciousness, not this personality. This also appears from that consciousness. It exists in that consciousness and dissolves back into the consciousness. So all of them are in you, the consciousness, and you are in all of them. Sarva bhutani cha atmani, sarva bhutastham cha atmanam. The self is in all beings. This, the devotee will say, Ishvara is in all beings. What the Advaitin means, non-dualist means by saying Atma is in all beings. This sixth mantra is telling us. The devotee will say, my God is in all beings. Bhagavan, Ishvara, God is in all beings. That's from the devotee's perspective. Another simple way of putting it is all light shining. It is nothing other than you, the consciousness, the light, which appears in these wonderful forms. It is the Leela of light. Now, that's a nice way of putting it. I coined it right now, the Leela of light. So, whole universe is the Leela of light. Oh, then what am I? You are the light. The entire universe, all beings, they appear and exist in that light. You as the light, you give existence to those beings and you illumine all of them. And you as light, all beings disappear back into you, the light. So the universe is nothing but light shining, and you are that light. You shining, everything else shines. By your light, everything here is lit up. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. You shining, everything else shines. When you shine, mind shines. When the mind shines, the sense organs shine. When the sense organs shine, the world shines. By your light, by you, the consciousness, everything here is lit up. Everything means mind, senses, world, everything is lit up. So this is the meaning of and the method of anupashyati. Of course, this is the heart of Advaita Vedanta. You can see all those things which we learn, drigdrishya viveka, panchakosha viveka, avasthatraya vichara, the distinction, method of the seer and the seen, the method of the 5 layers of the human personality, the method of the 3 states of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. These are all later on. The core idea has been given here in this Isha Upanishad, to see all beings in the self and the self in all beings. Only possible when we understand the self to be pure consciousness. Then only, not as body, not even as mind, not even as individual being, jiva. What will be the result? Very interesting. The Upanishad says, tato na vijugupsate. Then that one does not hate. That one does not hate. Why not? So, the result will be, we do not see any difference anymore. When we see no difference anymore, there will be no particular likes and dislikes, attachments and hatred. Our attachments and hatred in the world are based on seeing difference. First of all, seeing ourselves as apart from the world, different from the world, and seeing other beings different from each other. Some are useful for me, pleasurable for me, good to me, so I like them. People and things and places and activities. And some are not useful for me, or are inimical to me, they are nasty to me, they're problematic for me, I hate them. It could be people, it could be places, it could be food, it could be activities. Likes and dislikes, all are based on bheda, difference. Now this anupashyati, this seeing all beings in the self and the self in all beings, what does it do? It gives me abheda, non-difference, oneness. This oneness, the result of that will be samadrishti, not likes and dislikes. Samadrishti means the same sightedness, to see the same divinity everywhere. As a result, there will be no hatred. There's no hatred. Hatred, dislike is a weakness. It is those who are mentally weak, a kind of mental weakness, smallness, pettiness, it leads to hatred. The great, the wise, the strong, the big, they don't hate. They love, they accept, they help. So hatred is a sign of littleness, pettiness, separation. It's a sign of mental weakness. That's why Vivekananda said, first of all, be strong. All sin comes from weakness. Everything. Moral sin, mental, emotional weakness, mental weakness, intellectual weakness, and spiritual weakness. All of that leads to sin, to error. In this way of this anupashyati, the insight will be, I see myself in all beings and I see all beings in myself. Therefore, to hate somebody is equal to hating myself. To hate somebody is to hate myself. Why would I hate myself? No matter how those people behave towards me, I know the consciousness in this body and mind is exactly the same consciousness in that body and mind. Am I there? Am I here? Does not matter whether whom to praise, whom to blame, when praiser and praised, blamer and blamed are but one. Vivekananda. There is one verse I found which I would like to recite. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Ashtapash, the 8 fetters, Pash Mukto Sheep, Pash Baddha Jeep, Pash Baddha Jeep, Pash Mukta Sheep. Bound by fetters, you are a sentient being, a jiva, limited creature. Freed from the fetters, you are Shiva. The same being bound in the 8-fold fetters is jiva. The same being freed from the 8-fold fetters is Shiva. So that verse is in the Kularnava Tantra. It's a Sri Ramakrishna used to quote it. And there it says, Grina, Shanka, Bhayam, Lajja, Jugupsa, Cheti, Panchami, Kulam, Sheelam, Cha, Jati, Ityashtau, Pashaha. Grina, hatred. What are the fetters? How are we bound? Hatred. Shanka, doubt. Doubting, skeptical, not believing. Bhayam, fear. Lajja, shame. Jugupsa. So the same word which is used in the Upanishad. Tatona jugupsate, does not hate. Here the word jugupsa might mean, there's a second meaning to jugupsa, which is does not try to be secretive, to protect oneself. Another characteristic of the enlightened one is not only the enlightened one does not hate anybody, loves everybody, sees the same divinity everywhere, also does not try to protect oneself. We are very careful about keeping ourselves safe and happy. This body, this mind, this person, We protect ourselves from hunger and disease and all sorts of problems, from dishonor, we're very careful about our prestige. The enlightened one does not care, and does not try to protect this little self. So, and is not secretive. We are always ashamed because we are projecting a personality, that there are things which we would like to hide about ourselves. So we project a personality which we think others should, I want them to see me in this way. There are certain things I am ashamed of, which I cannot express before everybody. I hide, I am secretive. It is a very natural thing for weak creatures, small creatures like us. The enlightened one has nothing like that, does not care to hide anything, is happy to tell you everything about himself or herself. So they're childlike in that, open, completely open. So, na vijugupsate, does not hide, does not try to protect oneself. Kulam, high-born family, this is a kind of fetter. Sheelam, my um, way of life. Jati, my caste or my race. So all of these identifications at one level might be very natural and good, but ultimately in spiritual life, these are the 8 fetters. One must rise above them. And then the verse says, Pasha baddho bhaved jiva, pasha mukta sada shiva. Bound by these 8-fold fetters, or any one of them, or more than one of them. One is a jiva, sentient being, limited, little being. Freed from this 8-fold fetters, one is Shiva. Does not hate anybody, anything, any condition. So this is the verse, very beautiful verse. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanneva anupashyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. So one who sees, but the one who sees all beings in oneself and oneself in all beings, such a one does not hate anymore. Such a one, this is called Tattva Jnana, the knowledge of reality. The reality is this one underlying consciousness. And the result of this reality, of realization, is Samadrishti. We have the same sightedness everywhere, see the same divinity everywhere. And the result of that Samadrishti is Jivan Mukti, freedom in this very life. So this was a few points. Let me just read out one more line, couple of lines from Adi Shankaracharya, which are interesting. Shankaracharya's commentary on the 6th verse. The word Yah, the one. What did I say is the one? One with the person who has those 4-fold qualifications. Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadamadi, Shat Sampatti, Mumukshutvam cha. The 4-fold qualifications. That one. Shankaracharya, he says here, Yah paribrad mumukshu. The seeker after liberation, who is a monk. So Shankaracharya here clearly indicates his preference that these teachings are meant for monks, that you have to be a monk to benefit from these teachings. So that's one interesting point from Shankaracharya, which makes sense the way he has divided the whole Upanishad into 2 parts. And then he writes a beautiful line. What is the mentality of this non-dualist? What do they feel or think within? What is their understanding of the world? Yatha asya dehasya karyakarana sanghatasya atma aham. As in this body, with its sensory organs and its mind, I am the self in this body. With this mind and these senses, I am the self. Sarva pratyaya sakshi bhuta. I am the witness of all the movements of the mind, all thoughts, emotions, ideas, memories. I am the consciousness witnessing them in this mind. Chetaita, I give awareness. I am reflected in this mind as Chidabhasa, as reflected consciousness. Kevala, by myself, I am only consciousness. Nirguna, I am Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. Aneneva Swarupena, by this pure consciousness alone, by this Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, by this pure consciousness, Abhyaktadinam Sthavarantanam Ahamevatmeti, from the Hiranyagarbha down to a blade of grass, all beings All the gods in heavens, all the human beings in this world, all the animals, all the insects, and all the vegetables and trees, and down to a blade of grass, in all beings, and even living, non-living things, I am the self. Just as I am the self here, I am the self there. Just as I am the witness of all the pratyayas, the thoughts and emotions and memories in this mind, I am the witness of all thoughts and feelings and experiences in those minds also. Just as I lend consciousness to this body and mind, so I lend consciousness to all bodies and minds. But by myself, kevalo, nirguna, I am attributeless consciousness. This is the inner understanding of the enlightened one, Shankaracharya says, in one beautiful sentence. Let me read it out again. What is he explaining here? Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyeva anupashyati sarva bhuteshu atmanam. The one who sees all beings in the self and the self in all beings. What is it like? What does that enlightened one feel? Or that advanced seeker, that non-dualist, what is their inner reality? How do they experience it? He says, Yatha asya dehasya karya karana sanghatasya atma aham. Simple Sanskrit. Sarva pratyaya sakshi bhuta chetayita kevalo nirguna anenaiva swarupena abhyaktadinam sthavarantanam ahameva atma iti. I am the self of all beings. From the most humble blade of grass up to the highest God in heavens, in all of them, I am the one consciousness. Let me do a peace chant. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. So every time Swayampreet raises his hand, so let's start with Swayampreet today. Swayampreet, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Maharaj Pranam.
Namaskar, namaskar.
Maharaj, my question is, what is the role of emotions in like all our emotions, including anger, compassion, peace, everything? What is the role of emotion in spiritual development of human being from Buddhist and Vedantic perspective? Do they exist for us or they do
No,
not?
they definitely exist. Emotions are very important. Where are the emotions? The emotions are in the mind. The emotions are in the mind, and they are very important because they guide our intellect for a long time until the emotions are purified. Our likes and dislikes are more important than our knowledge and information. Modern positive psychology has also shown that we really don't follow what we know. We really follow what we feel like. If you have strong likes and strong dislikes, that's what we will do. We will do what we like, and we will try to avoid what we dislike, not what we know. So what we know may be different, and what we like and dislike will be different, but what we like and dislike will determine our actions. Emotions are very important, and that's why in spiritual life, whether you are in Hinduism or Buddhism, whether you are in a path which believes in God and a path which does not believe in God, in every path, the purification of the emotions is very important. We must have emotions, but positive emotions. Bhakti, devotion to God, is a very powerful way of purifying emotions. All right. Then let us look at the questions. John says, multiple times in my life, I've had the experience of seeing myself looking out of the eyes of another person. Experience of me looking and recognizing me, looking out from another's eyes and seeing just one. Is this awareness seeing itself directly without going through the filter of the mind? The fifth sutra, or the verse, actually describes self, Atmanam with a capital S, seeing itself. Yes, what you had is an extraordinary experience, but even without that experience, it is saying that, if we abstract from ourselves sensory experience, mental thoughts and emotions, ideas, memories, even the sense of ego, the witness of that blankness, that pure consciousness, then we'll begin to see it cannot be different in different bodies and minds. So that's an insight. But what you are talking about is an actual experience. You feel that you are seeing yourself through the eyes of somebody else. That is, Vedanta would say that will be very, very helpful in understanding what was just said. Then Janhavi is asking, in the very first song of the Tukaram Gatha, Tukaram Maharaj says, may my vritti always rest on Hari, who is Samacharana and Samadrishti. Would Samadrishti refer to the same principle, seeing or experiencing the same divinity in all beings? Yes, but here when you're talking about God, Tukaram is talking about God, Hari. So from God's vision, we are all the same. There's a beautiful saying, God has no grandchildren, which means we are all the children of God. You are the child of God, your son or daughter is the child of God, and your grandchildren are also the child. Everybody is the son or daughter of God, is the child of God. So God has same drishti towards everybody, because God sees everybody as nothing but an extension or an appearance or a projection of himself or herself or itself. Here, instead of God, the emphasis is on the self, Atma. To see all beings in the self, and the self in all beings will lead to samadrishti. See, remember this flow. Tattvajnana leads to samadrishti, leads to jivan mukti. Tattvajnana, the reality. I am pure consciousness. That will lead to samadrishti. How? The same pure consciousness in all beings and all beings in this pure consciousness. Therefore, sameness. Then that will lead to a way of life for this individual, for the enlightened individual, which will be called jivan mukti. And the question continues, would Samacharana refer to the infinite presence of the all-pervading Sat? The rest of the stanzas are highly Advaitic, which is why I think he refers to Vitthal as Brahman here. Entirely possible, because in the eyes of the devotees of God, Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman are the same. What we worship as God is also the attributeless Brahman of the Advaitins. I often quote Meister Eckhart, the great German theologian, who, if you read him, is Catholic, is a Catholic monk going back some 600 years, 500, 600 years. And if you read him, nowadays, of course, available in English, it is very non-dualistic. You feel you are reading Advaita Vedanta. Listen to this. The ground of God and the ground of myself are one and the same ground. Look at what we just read. The first mantra said, cover everything by God, which means uncover God in everything, which means discover God in everything. The sixth mantra said, see the self in all beings. So God is in all beings. You have to see God in all beings. You have to see yourself in all beings, which means that God and the self must be the one and the same thing. There must be something in God and something in the self which is the same thing. Now, direct answer from Meister Eckhart, the ground of God and the ground of myself are the same ground. Sanket says, while it is easy to understand seeing the self in others, how are we to understand all beings in the self itself? See, we just did an exercise. It gives you a hint. When we wake up, what appears? The mind, only your mind. And then the senses and the body, this body, and the world around me. So the whole world, known and unknown, appears when we wake up. Where? In yourself, not in the body. After all, the body is on the bed and the bed is outside the body. All other beings are outside your body, not even in the mind, but in consciousness. In consciousness, mind appears, body appears, world appears. The world appears in consciousness. Look at the difference in the two sentences. The world appears to consciousness. The world appears in consciousness. The world appears to consciousness is very easily understood. Yeah, that's about right. If we will say, I look around, yeah, the world is appearing to me. But the world is appearing in me, we hesitate to say, because we are so body bound. It's not at all clear that the world is in me. If I'm body, obviously the world is not in me. If I'm body, there is something outside the body and there is something inside the body. Certainly the universe is not inside the body. But if I am awareness, then is it not true to say that I am aware of the body? Where are you aware of the body? In myself, in awareness. I am aware of the world, in awareness. At this point, someone might ask, you are aware of only one tiny part of the world in awareness. The vast part of the world is not in your awareness. Right here, for example, you are aware of things which you can see or hear. But what about sounds you cannot hear? What about tiny particles you cannot see? How are they in your awareness? They are there, Advaita will say, they are there in your awareness as the unknown. Where else are they? If you say, with a microscope, I will discover many, many bacteria here which were unseen earlier. Now they are in my awareness. Earlier, where were they? You say, outside my awareness. No, they were outside your knowledge, but not outside your awareness. They were in your awareness as the vast unknown. And you converted them into knowledge using instruments of knowledge. Again, they will pass out of your knowledge very soon. But nothing is outside awareness. This is a simple but great truth to finally begins to dawn upon us. Then these things will make sense. As I mentioned this many times earlier, in a Vedanta class in Hindi in India, the teacher was saying, you're all pervading consciousness. In the back of the hall, somebody said, sir, how can I be all pervading? I am here and not there. And you are on the stage and you are not here. So how are we all pervading? And then the teacher said, but here and there, are they not both in you? In Hindi. और यहाँ और वहाँ, क्या दोनों ही आप में नहीं है? This idea of here and there, where are you talking about it? In consciousness. It is in consciousness, this is here. In consciousness, it's there. To make it even more clear, think about a dream. You are walking in a beautiful garden. You can see beautiful flowers in front of you. Here are the flowers. There is a river, and far beyond is the sky. So here, there, and far away. But when we wake up, here, there, and far away, all will be in the mind only. So even space is an appearance in consciousness. Time is an appearance in consciousness. And all objects in space, time are appearances in consciousness. This is the basic idea of non-duality. Without this, non-duality is not proved. Sanket says, another question. In the second lecture of Jnana Yoga series, Swamiji says we are not individuals yet, or there is no individuality except in the infinite. So the individual being does not exist. I find it very profound. Yes, we all feel we are individuals, which is called jiva. But when we analyze it, we find it's just a conglomeration. That's the great Buddhist insight. It deconstructs the so-called individual. And if you deconstruct it, when you plumb into the depths, you will reach the infinite. That is limitless consciousness. All right, we have gone beyond time. There's some nice questions. But don't worry, you can ask these questions again, because the seventh verse, half of the seventh verse is actually a repetition of this, to see all beings in the self and the self in all beings. And then it will give a very wonderful result of all of this. Tatra komoha kashoka ekatvam anupashyata. To the one who sees this divine oneness everywhere. Where is sorrow? Where is delusion? One sadhu put it very beautifully. कहीं कोई मृत्यु नहीं महात्मा जी, कहीं जड़ता नहीं, कहीं दुख नहीं. There is no death anywhere because you are Sat. There is no insentiency or non-knowledge anywhere because you are Chit, consciousness. There is no suffering anywhere, really, for the enlightened one, because you are bliss itself. All seems very far. Amazing thing is, it's right here. It is you. But we are looking elsewhere. That's why it all seems very far. We seem surrounded by death. We seem surrounded by ignorance. We seem surrounded by sorrow. Mrityu, ajnana, dukkha. But what is Upanishad telling us? It says, tu, but, reply. You are existence itself, limitless existence, no death for you. You are consciousness itself, the very principle of knowledge. Wherever there is knowledge, you are there. You shining, everything else shines. And this limitless existence consciousness is bliss itself, is freedom and fulfillment itself. You are the point of this whole universe. That one, that you. So no sorrow for you at all. In so-called apparent sorrow, you will find fulfillment. In so-called apparent darkness, you will find light. In so-called apparent life and death, you will find immortality. This is the beauty of non-duality.